Call the meeting to order. Tonight we have a special occasion. We're going to look at the fee schedule. Real insight into how things go. All the fees in Peachtree City are coming up. You're getting ready. We've got a lot of the citizens here. So this is obviously going to be an exciting meeting.
Yes.
Okay. I want to turn it over to Justin, our city manager, interim city manager.
Yep.
And you go ahead and lead us through all the different fees that we've got ready to go.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem DeStadio. Good evening, council. Thanks for coming out tonight on a Tuesday. A little more informal for the workshops, but we're going to start with our, this workshop is dedicated specifically to our fee schedule. To get us started, I want to talk, I'm going to talk generally for a few minutes about a couple things, and then I'll pass it along to various staff who are here tonight to talk about specific changes they want to make in their fees this year. I think this is an important part of the budget process. Is something, and I'll probably have a slide about this later, but the fee schedule is something we haven't really done as part of the budget process since I've been here. It's been done in other places I've worked, but I think it's worth looking at every year during the budget process. Doesn't mean we change fees every year, but we at least look at them and evaluate them. So I'm kind of considering this workshop as kind of our soft opening, like a restaurant, our soft opening into the budget cycle, into the budget season for you all. We'll have more budget workshops as we get further into the process of really digging into it, but this is kind of, this isn't budget per se, it's fees, but it's kind of, you know, kind of getting there. We're kind of getting there. Go ahead.
I was going to say, why don't we go ahead and do a Pledge of Allegiance too?
Oh, sure.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justin.
No problem. All right, so just to review, and you guys will see this slide 3 or 4 times as we move through the budget process, but just so you see what our budget policy is, the city's top program is to maintain existing service levels in all divisions and departments. So unless otherwise told by council, our objective is to maintain the services we provide to our citizens. The baseline is set, agreed upon by staff and council on what that baseline is through this budget process. And anything that we add or take away from the budget has to be justified. That's kind of that second paragraph there of anything we add has to have some kind of revenue associated with it to pay for it. So that goes back to us having a balanced budget. At a local level, we are required by law to have a balanced budget as well as the state. And of course, everything costs, not just money, but manpower, machines, and materials, your 4 M's there. So as we go through the fees here, a lot of the proposals you're going to see are going to be related to changes in one of these 4 things. I'm not going to read everything here, but this is our mission statement as a city. We want to ensure that we have a safe and healthy environment for our citizens, provide consistency in our delivery of services, respond in a courteous, timely, and effective manner, and promote a sense of community in our city. And then finally, we have our vision and values that we adopted last year, our uncompromised excellence vision, which has been very helpful for, I think, everybody, not just staff, but for council and our citizens as well, as far as defining what level of services we want to have here. And then we have our PATHSS values there, which kind of tie back into that uncompromised excellence. All right, so like I said, the second bullet there, the goal is to begin a review every year, the fee schedule coinciding with the beginning of the budget prep process. And then just for your information as we go through this, the last time it actually was reviewed by council, that staff actually reviewed this with council and made any changes was in 2019. So it's been 5 years.
Did they make changes at that time, or was it no changes? So
no,
they
there
did?
were changes.
Okay, thank you.
So it's been 5 years, and as you all know, there have been considerable increases in a lot of things since 2019. So I think it's time to review this And then as like I said, as we move forward, review it again. So what the two items you're kind of looking at are charges for services and licenses and permits are what we're going to talk about tonight. And specifically, as we're looking at the pie chart here, this is this year's budget. The ones we're looking at are charges for services. How do I change it, Robin? Double click. There we go. We're looking at charges for services, which is about 4.2% of the budget, this purple slice. And then licenses and permits, 3.5% of the budget, this green slice. As we move forward, as most governments, most of our revenue comes from taxes, but we're going to be analyzing the stuff, permits and services that we give to our citizens and charge for. So I'm going to call up our fire department to start to review things they're looking at in the fee schedule. And council, feel free to jump in and ask questions as we go, because you may forget your question if you wait. I know I don't have to tell you guys that, but.
How about that?
There you go.
There you go.
Good evening, council.
Good evening, Chief.
I'm going to talk to you tonight. I'm going to talk about the EMS transport fees, and then the fire marshal is going to come up and talk to you about construction fees and things that he deals with on a daily basis. So we'll get started. Okay, so our EMS fees are based off of transport for patients that are going to the hospital. And I want to break each one of these down and kind of go through them with you. Most of these are going to be for going to the hospital, but there's two of them that are not. So we're going to start with the first one. The first one is a facility lift assist. So this is where we go to one of the assisted livings, and we basically pick somebody up out of the floor and put them back in the bed, because they're not a patient of ours. They're just need help back to the chair, the bed, whatever they fell out of. So what happens here is it's supposed to be an assisted living, and the staff is not allowed to pick them up by their own policies. So we're doing it currently for free, which takes manpower, money, all of those things that the city manager just talked about. So what we want to do is we want to charge a fee to the facility for coming out there and doing work. We're supplying manpower to their facility, staff to their facility, and we want to charge them for it. So we got this proposed amount from our billing company based off of what other agencies are charging. There are other ones in the state of Georgia that are already doing this, and it is much higher than this. Sandy Springs is one of them. So that's one to consider. There is adding that one, and that's basically just to cover our cost. So the next ones they're labeled based on Medicare. So Basic Life 1 would go from $750 to $888. Advanced Life. So there's Advanced Life and Advanced Life 2. Basically, what the difference between those two is the amount of drugs and skill level that is used. So if you get a cardiac monitor, 2 drugs, all those things kind of build up. And what Medicare was trying to do is cover some of the cost of the drugs. It does not cover any of it. We might break even on it. So even if we go to those levels.
Hey, Chief,
Yes,
the
sir.
Basic Life 1,
Yes, sir.
what are the service that we provide there at Basic Life 1? I didn't hear, either you missed it or I didn't hear it correctly.
Okay, so Basic Life 1 is very basic treatment, blood pressure, that kind of stuff. You're
No
going to get
drugs or anything like that?
Yeah, no drugs. That is, you need. I'm trying to think of a good example. you don't need advanced cardiac life support. How about that? You don't need to be put on the monitor. You just need a transport to the hospital.
Say if somebody just is really sick, or they got
Yeah.
pains in their guts or whatever, and they need
Yes.
to be transported to the
Right.
hospital, but
You're-
they don't need
you're-
medicine or
you're-
drugs just to get them out of there.
We call it a sick call or an illness call.
Okay.
So yeah, that's basically what that is.
Okay.
And then the next two levels go up. So an advanced life support 2 would be like a cardiac arrest for us.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
do we give them at least saline,
On the basic, or
basic? I mean, a lot of times their blood pressure is low. That's why they fell.
I'd have to look it up, but I think it is covered in that. When you go to advanced, you're talking about the level of skill for the provider, and you're also talking about the amount of materials or procedures. That's the other thing, procedures that you're doing.
Just let me know if you do that.
Okay.
I think we should at least provide saline to somebody that's fainted.
Oh, yeah. That all this is just a basic way to
Understand?
bill it. It gets pretty complicated. That's why we have a billing company to do it. But we're going to treat the patient no matter what. That's the thing. We treat the patient. This has nothing to do with what we do, as far as this is all on the back end. So, all right. So speaking of that, we go out and we treat and no transport. So this is where we would go out and you're diabetic and we give you D50, which is a medication, and you recover. And then you sign the form saying that you don't want to be transported to the hospital because you know how to handle this and we got you out of the emergency at your house. So that drug still costs money. It still costs money for us to administer it. So this is a way for us to recoup the cost of basically the medication and the time. So we've left that one at the same rate on that. And then the mileage is generally set by Medicare, what they pay, and then we add a percentage to it, and that's basically where the $10 we had before is now up to $17.88 on it. So basically what you're looking at is incremental changes in it. So all of these proposed amounts came from our billing company, and what they do is they survey all, so like Fayette County, Coweta, all of that, to figure out how much we should be charging, so we stay competitive is the wrong word, but in the same range with everybody else.
And Chief, question real quick on the facility lift assist is specifically named that because we would only charge it to,
Yes.
profit, or facilities that
Yes. So
or assisted living. If
Yeah.
if I had an aunt that lived at her house still and she fell and couldn't get up and had nobody else to call,
we
she
still
would
show
not be,
up
she
for
would
all
not
of
be
that.
charged.
Yeah, this is only for the facilities in town that actually, because they already have staff, right? The reason that we're here is to do exactly what Justin just said, is we're here, people pay taxes for us to come to their house and assist them. The facility, somebody is paying to be in this facility to be assisted, and they're using us as their staff, and we're just trying to recoup some of it.
I have a question on the charging amount. I see the proposed amount, and I really don't have much to say about that until I find out. Is this, under most circumstances, of the fees that are charged, are they paid for by Medicare or probably one of their insurance companies like a United Healthcare or one of those kind of people?
So Medicare has a flat billing rate that is not these. This is what, if somebody had Medicare and then a supplemental insurance or insurance,
Mhm.
this is the amount that they would be charged.
Okay, so basically, we're taking care of the people and letting the insurances take care of the bills.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's really the bottom line of
Right.
the whole thing.
Yeah,
These are our
it-
citizens, and we want to make sure they get taken care of.
So our billing company, every 6 months puts out this survey that I'm looking at right here, that where all of this came from, and you choose whether you want to up those fees every 6 months if you would like. But I think the purpose here is for us to look at it annually and make incremental change so we stay somewhat level with the field.
And Justin, you said these haven't been updated since 97?
No, 2019.
2019.
5 years.
5 years.
It's funny how the amounts come out to these crazy numbers instead of a nice round number.
Right.
Any reason why you left them at these numbers? I know that you said you added a little bit extra for some coverage that you would get.
So
but
I rounded
to
them.
round those numbers up would make sense to me.
So I rounded them to the, except for the bottom, the mileage, I rounded them to the next number up. Because
Okay.
they were all had like 44 cents, 23 cents.
Okay.
So that's the only one I didn't do that on. So, which we can definitely do.
And you did all these based on the calculations of approximately how much time it took to do it, how much whatever this or that has to be done for these people that you assist?
No, sir. What we did is we used the fee analysis from our billing company that
From the billing
says,
company.
this is what everybody else charges in your area, and this is what you should set yours. These are
That
the
made it easy.
recommendations to set it at.
So we really don't know whether these are going to cover our costs or not.
I'm going to tell you that they probably won't, and they never have.
Okay. Thank you.
This is a supplement to taxes,
Yeah,
basically.
to services for our
Yes, sir.
citizens, and I
Mhm.
appreciate that. That's a good answer, Chief.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir. So, what's it got? All right, so our other recommendation is that, so I rescinded all of our cams and cars except for 20-1 because it was the actual policy that set up. So what this would happen was this would come before council and you would set the fees, and it was in the policy. And what we want to do is rescind this current cam and just do a fee schedule all in one. And that way it doesn't come separately, it's all one document and it's voted on at one time.
So, yeah, to clarify, basically what he's saying is, before we had policies in multiple, or we had fees in multiple places that were approved as different documents
Right.
to council. So what we're saying is, we want to wrap pretty much all of our fees into one master document and rescind this, because one thing we're actually doing as staff too is we're trying to get away from having a ton of policies that not everybody has access to. They're hard to find. Sometimes people don't even remember that we have them. So it's better for us to have these kind of master documents that are easy to reference and everybody knows where they are.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, I was
basically-
gonna say the city attorney was already working
Yes,
on
we
trying
have-
to
yeah, Ted is
condense
working on
these, and pretty much everything that's already in there is already in our contract for billing and those kinds of things, so it's already redone anyway, so.
So the cam would not be necessary at all? It just goes away?
No, it just
Goes away.
it would go
Correct.
away. I'll bring it before you, that way you can
Yeah.
revoke it like we
Well,
did
I
the
mean,
last ones.
Our
or-
basic plan would be, and just so you know too, once we're done with this workshop, we're going over this with you all now, you'll get a copy of this actual presentation. We'll send you, based on tonight, we'll send you the proposed master fee schedule, the actual document. And then as part of that, when we actually bring it to a council meeting for approval, probably the item after it will be to rescind this CAM on the same agenda.
Thank you, Justin. Any comments?
Okay, we'll turn it over to the fire marshal.
Good evening, council.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Chief.
All right, y'all ready to get bored? with numbers? So, I'm going to try to keep this as unboring as possible. Is that the right word? Basically, this is a long Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of fees. What you're going to see here, and like Justin said earlier, these were last looked at in 2019, and I don't believe we made many changes to our plans in that 2019, or our fees in that 2019. So we're over 5 years in our fees for inspections and plan reviews. I did some research to come up with the new proposed amounts. I looked at several jurisdictions in the metro Atlanta area, cities, counties, close to us, other side of town. I looked at several different places. Also looking at what Safe Built charges on the building department side for similar inspections as another way to compare. So basically what you're gonna see when we go through these slides is you're gonna see some that have a current amount of 0. That means that we've been doing these inspections or these plan reviews without charging a fee for them over the last, well, I've been doing them for the last 7 or 8 years without charging fees. And then the proposed amount is based on my research from other jurisdictions, other entities that are charging fees, as well as they're comparable to the time, my hourly rate, how many hours it takes me to do the work, both scheduling, performing the task, and entering the data into the system. So I'll be happy to explain any of these that you want me to explain, but really, like I said, there's several slides that look just like this that are going to show fees that we have, or tasks that we have been performing, the current amount that we charge, and then the amount that we are proposing. So one of them is a site plan review. That's the first process that comes through when someone's doing new construction or a major renovation of an area. Sometimes it can go through several different times, several different plan reviews of a site. And currently we are not charging a fee for that in the fire marshal's office. We're proposing a $100 fee for that. The fire plan review square footage, the next 2 lines there, basically the second line down, so the third line on this chart is the 1.5 cents per square foot, so 0.15 cents per square foot is the current charge, with a minimum of 10,000 square feet, which turns into $150. So a minimum fee of $150, and we're looking to raise that to 2 cents per square foot and a minimum fee of $200. Fire sprinkler plan reviews, we're looking at adding $25 to that fee. Automatic fire extinguishment, that would be things like your kitchen hood systems in restaurants that have to go through a plan review process to make sure that they're meeting the codes and standards. And you'll notice a lot of our proposed amounts at the end are that $175 amount, so raising that one up 25 cents. Special suppression systems, those would be something similar to what we have in our computer room here at City Hall, the Halon system, something like that. Right now, people are putting those in, and we have not had a mechanism to charge them. Sometimes we've actually used the automatic fire extinguishment review permit fee on that, but we're basically filling this column in with a number.
Chief,
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
if you have to go back to some, have you back up a slide?
Sure.
You do a site plan and it's $150, and if you have to do another site plan because they didn't pass, do they get charged a second time, or did it's all part of it?
There are revision fees that are added in, but they are added in at the building department level. So
I don't know if I understand that.
there's an automatic fee that's added for all of us when they do a resubmittal. So it would depend if it's a minor change or if you have to do a whole nother review process as to whether we would charge the fee again.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Chief, I do have one quick
Yes, sir.
question. I look at these numbers here, and
Uh-huh.
they seem to me like that covers your time, you
Uh-huh.
as the chief, to go out there, leave your office, go to this site, wherever it is, do the site work, whatever that takes, and go back to your office, and that cost of your time, your services, and your time on there is only worth $200? It just seems not quite right. I would think it would be a lot more than that.
Well,
That's just my thinking.
I appreciate that. No. Based on what I was able to find at other jurisdictions, I did not find any that were charging much more than this.
Okay.
I am open if council wants to charge more money. That's your prerogative. I'm trying to give you an analysis based on the people that I'm looking, other jurisdictions, because I don't think we want to be the highest feed city in town. But if we want to, that, like I said, that's your prerogative. These are, to me, fair. I don't think we're looking to make money with fees. I think fees are designed to cover costs, not to profit. So we're looking to cover our costs, and let's say it's hard to say exactly because, you know, I may have to be walking around a 50,000 square foot warehouse doing stuff, which may take me more time than others. But that's where we run into the plan review costs for those facilities are way more than the plan review costs on smaller facilities. So we kind of, the overall, you know, when you think about it, when somebody is doing a construction project in town, they are submitting plan review, sprinkler review, alarms, which we're going to get to. Then we're going to be doing inspections and other things too. So they're getting all these fees logged on, or, you know, stacked on top of each other throughout their process. So it's very seldom are somebody just going to be charged for one of these things. They're going to be charged for multiples of these things at a time. Not to mention they're also being charged by Safe Built for the building department side of the project.
I think you
That-
said
that's
one,
ne-
sorry.
That's an excellent answer, Chief. We're not trying to make money. We just want to cover as much of the cost as we can. Go ahead,
I
Clint.
think your key word was fair, and I think that's an honorable word to use, that they're fair prices. They're not overly charged, and nor do they short us either in our coverage. So I like that word fair, and I think
Yes,
that's
sir.
a good one.
And I think, I did not do any, and to be honest, these, we were first asked to look at these in 2022. And so these numbers are actually from 2022. So they're almost 2 years old even. But I did go back and do a cursory look at the places that I examined. And they haven't changed their fees since I looked at them in 2022. However, we know that inflation has risen since 2022. So the cost of doing business has definitely gone up in that time. But none of my comparables had actually increased their fees since I looked at them in 2022.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. Oh, sorry. So going on, fire alarm plan review is another one, going from 150 to that 175. Another item that we've never charged a fee for is prefabricated paint booths. Those do have to be permitted and certified by state law in the state of Georgia. So we're adding a fee to that. I talked earlier about the fire kitchen hood systems, 150, going from 150 to that 175. A fee that we've never charged, which does require me to actually, once again, leave my office and walk through facilities, is an 80% inspection. So when a construction project is being built, before they cover up their ceiling or their basically above their ceiling. So in this building, it would be before they put their tiles in, or if it was a building with a hard sheetrock ceiling. The fire marshal does an inspection to make sure that the electrical junctions are closed up, that the sprinkler heads are in place where they're supposed to be, and that any fire-rated walls or assemblies are intact before they hide them from us, basically. So that is an 80% inspection. We've never charged for that inspection before. I'm proposing that we add a fee for that inspection. The final inspection is basically the finished product. We go out and do another walkthrough to make sure that the finished building is acceptable to fire codes. If they do a fire alarm addition or modifications to a fire alarm or adding a fire alarm to a building, we do what's called an acceptance test, where we set off the alarm, walk through the entire building, make sure that all the horn strobes and pool stations and everything are working as designed and planned, making sure it goes to 911 and everything works. So we're looking at raising that fee a little bit. There is also something that we call a fire alarm certificate only, and that would be if there's minor changes done. Like say they came into an office building and they added a room, and that room needed a fire alarm annunciator device inside of it. We wouldn't charge them for the whole acceptance because all they're doing is modifying the system. Basically plug and play. They're adding another piece to the system.
Can I ask a question?
Any questions on this slide?
The only one I looked at up there, they're all great. I get
Uh-huh.
no issues here. When I look at the final CO
Yeah.
inspection, I mean, you could do a small building. You could be something in the size of this room, and you could be doing the size of the QTS. And
Yes.
you're charging the same fee for that? Would that be like the other one where you did it on a square footage? I'm just looking at that
Yeah,
and saying, CO is a lot of work to do that.
Yes, sir, I understand that. So both of those, the 80% and the CO inspection, I was not able to find any other jurisdictions that charged per square foot for those inspections. Once again, I believe we're going to make up the costs in there when we do the plan review of that, because it's going to be significantly higher than the smaller buildings. So I think it's going to wash out. I think you're going to get
Good
it that way.
explanation.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Once again, these are more tests, kitchen hood acceptance. Basically, when they put in a new kitchen hood system, we go through and we make sure all of it works like it's supposed to work. Fire extinguishing system, same thing. Sprinklers, there's lots of tests that get done during a sprinkler system installation. If they're putting in a brand new system from the ground up, there's pressure tests on the water lines inside or underground, where basically we go out, look at a pressure gauge, come back 2 hours later and look at the pressure gauge, make sure they haven't lost pressure. There's above ground pressure tests also, and then there's acceptance of the systems to make sure that they work. So all these are tests that we're currently doing. You know, as we're charging $25 right now, we'd like to get them more comparable to the amount that it's actually costing us to go out and do those inspections. And then finally for me, we have fire pumps, and then those are parts of larger buildings that have sprinkler systems in them, may need a supplemental pump to increase the pressure on the water. We have a few of those in the city. Some of our larger warehouse buildings have those, and we have a few that are actually getting ready to come in with some new buildings that are actually in the process right now. But we've never had a fee in the fee schedule for those. Those have just been part of the sprinkler system design, but they do require some analysis of the plans and also an acceptance procedure that goes through where they run the pump through its stages and we have to go out and witness it. So we're adding those. There was one fee that's been charged in the past that I'm looking to actually remove, because with all these other changes, it won't be necessary to have this anymore. It would be a base certificate of occupancy inspection, so we can get rid of that fee. And then here's your, not for your plan reviews, but for re-inspections. So when we go out and do, if we go out and do an 80% or a final CO inspection and the business fails, and we have to go back out. Previously, we have not charged for those re-inspections, but once again, this is taking time away from the fire marshal's office, and we believe we should be compensated for that time. So we're looking at adding a fee for that.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In the past, does anybody have any idea why some of these fees were never put in place? Was that just whether the fire department ever asked to put them in place, or was that because somewhere along the trails, a council decided not to put it, or?
You know what, ma'am, the only explanation I know is that I was told as a young firefighter that our fees were based on the state fire marshal's fees, and perhaps the state fire marshal wasn't charging fees at the time, but I really don't know.
Okay.
This is before my time. The fee schedule as it sits was in place before I'm in the position that I'm in now. So.
I mean, it certainly it definitely makes sense to me that if you go out, if they're saying, oh, come and inspect us, you go out, they fail, you have to go back,
Yeah.
It's double the labor, double the time, whatever, it certainly makes sense to charge that. So I was just kind of wondering if there was any rhyme or reason for why it was not like that in the past.
Yeah, I don't know. Does anybody? I wouldn't say that, but I'm not sure.
As long as they're fair.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
like I
okay.
say, once again, I believe these accurately represent the time and the salaries that are paid, plus the equipment costs, fuel and stuff that we're using to do these.
I mean, if the simple answer is, at the time that these fees were established, this was the general rule of thumb across the state or other, I get it, but.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think I can accurately answer that with any kind of even an educated guess.
I can say that there are times, as the legislation comes about we install an ordinance and we don't always go back and
Right.
add an fee to the fee schedule. So
Right.
you'll see later in the presentation where we personally have added ordinances but have not added items to the fee schedule to match.
Well, because, I mean, the only fee schedule kind of discussion that we've been involved in since I'm on the board and with Laura too, you know, is like, we're looking at the short-term rental, how much it's gonna cost, how much to go out and whatever. And, I mean, the whole goal is, we don't want it to be a drain on the city budget to do those things, but we're not trying to make a profit. So
Correct.
it's, you know, a balancing act of sorts. You know, with the philosophy, you know, of course, that, you know, me, the citizen taxpayer who has no need for this inspection, should not be paying for it. And a business making a profit out of it, you know, they're, if they've passed their inspection, they're gonna open a business if it's a restaurant or whatever, and so.
Yeah, and state laws
Yeah.
have changed as well, so
Okay.
as new inspection requirements come about and we're required to do them, just the fee schedule probably just hasn't been updated.
Yeah, and this would be an example. I'm
That's-
sorry, I spoke
yeah.
too soon. I have one more slide, so. The IFC 510 emergency radio system, this is a new adopted code in the state of Georgia, actually, in the International Fire Code, that requires buildings that are over, I want to say 10,000 square foot, I'd have to look at it exactly, that if you have a building over 10,000 square foot, they're required to perform an analysis of how radio signals from our 911, responder radio systems are able to potentially penetrate their buildings. So based on the strength of the system and the material that they're going to be using to construct their building, they may be required to put basically a booster system in, and that requires a review by us. So this is one that, once again, is something new that was never charged for before, but it's another plan review, and you notice that it's the same as the other plan reviews. Currently, these last four are, or I'm sorry, the next three are inspections that we do right now. Currently, we do annual inspections of all businesses within the city, and we do not charge a fee for those, and we are not requesting to charge a fee. And we are also not charging a fee currently or requesting to charge a fee for a first re-inspection. So currently we do charge a fee if we have to go back a second time to do a follow-up. So if we find things that are not in compliance, such as emergency lighting that is out, or sprinkler systems that have not been tagged and checked and are up to code, or fire extinguishers that are out of date, or exits that are blocked, whatever we may find, if they fix it the first time or even the second time, then we are happy with that, and we use that part of their OC taxes and the fact that they're doing business in the city, we're providing that as a service. But if we have to go back a second time, currently we're charging $50. We would like to up that to $100. And then currently we charge an occupancy tax inspection for a new occupancy tax. So a new business that comes into Peachtree City and opens its doors for the first time, getting an occupancy tax from us. We basically want to do a walkthrough of that building to make sure that they are meeting fire code upon opening. In my personal experience, I have seen businesses that have opened without fire extinguishers. And so just to step back a second, if we've done a construction project and then we're checking a lot of that stuff with the certificate of occupancy when we're checking the final inspection. But I have seen places open without fire extinguishers. I've seen restaurants open that have basically, one restaurant leaves and a new one comes in and takes its place but doesn't do any renovations. That I've actually seen, this was not here, but it was in another jurisdiction where I was working. The previous tenant had taken out all the fire suppression systems over the kitchen, the cooking system, and the restaurant was about to open. And that jurisdiction actually had a fire marshal's inspection for alcohol sales. And that's the only reason we caught it, because they were applying for their alcohol license, and we caught that. So we want to make sure businesses that open are in compliant. We are currently charging them $100 for that, and we do not want to change that. We want to leave that where that is. And then the last one for me, I promise, is blasting permits. When companies do big blasting projects or any blasting in cities. So currently we are issuing them for, I think the most recent one was up there in Crestwind. And maybe somewhere off of Dividend Drive, I think we just had our last one. So basically, they got to break some rock. They are required to take out a permit. Currently, we're charging them $100 for a 30-day permit, and we're asking to increase that to $200, which is comparable to other jurisdictions. And that is all I have. Any more questions for me?
No? Excellent review, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
I
good,
appreciate it.
And it wasn't boring.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Tough to follow up that one. All right. Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Just have one slide here tonight. You know, in the recreation department, we actually have a lot of fees. However, we're doing the master plan right now, so part of that process is evaluating a lot of our fees. So I've just selected a few that I thought were appropriate to update at this point until we, you know, later discuss with the consultant what the outcome is and how we might need to increase some of the other fees.
So at the master plan review, that we'll be looking at fees.
Yes, we'll be looking at
Yeah,
fees through
well,
that
they'll
process.
go over what their recommendations are
Mhm.
as far as what they think our fee should change to. And then it'll be up to us to decide, do we want to go back and update the fee schedule at that point, or do we want to do it in next year's cycle, you know, hold off for a few months, do it next year's cycle? Like, that'll be a decision for later.
Thank you, Kathy. That's good.
All right, so these fees today apply particularly to special events. So the first section at the top is covering staff fees. So these are our staff, mostly our maintenance techs, that an event organizer might want to hire to help set up equipment or monitor electrical systems, help pick up trash, things like that. It's not required of them. It's just a service we offer in case they wanted to have additional staff at the event. Currently, the rate is $25 an hour, but we wanted it to actually be like an overtime rate, so a time and a half. And so we took the average of our maintenance tech earnings and came up with $35 an hour. So that's actually paid directly to that staff person from the event organizer. We also sometimes get requests for our supervisors, and we were just going with the $25 an hour rate before, which is actually less than what they make. So we want to make sure that they're fairly compensated for their time, especially at the amphitheater. If it was to be rented out, which has been very rare in the past, a facility coordinator is required, and so we wanted to make that rate $45 an hour so that they're fairly compensated for their time. And the second part, we have a lot of different equipment that we rent, we have available for.
Excuse me, Kathy.
Sure.
The amphitheater facility coordinator,
Mhm.
that doesn't come under the fees that they have when they hire the individual, let's say it's a band?
Mhm.
when the
This
per-
doesn't apply for concerts. They're paid through the company, like you're speaking
Okay.
of. This is like if there's a private event there or something like that,
Thank you.
which has happened in the past. Not a common occurrence, but it was a fee that needed to be updated.
Thank you.
So, like I was saying, we have a lot of different equipment that we have available for events. The triathlon uses a lot of barricades. We do cones, barrels, things like that. One thing that we have recently rebuilt are the light poles that you see at a lot of the events. We've used them for our sunset sounds, and a lot of event organizers in the past have used them. They were breaking, so we rebuilt them. In order to cover the cost of those, if somebody were to want to rent them, we're proposing a fee of $5 per pole, just to help cover the cost over the next few years of those. And something that we run into out there, they do involve having large stakes that have to be put into the ground, so we do want our staff to install those. And so we're proposing an installation and removal fee to go with those light poles, because our staff has the knowledge of where we need to put those poles, how to properly install them and take them down so they're not broken in the process and properly stored away. So this is just an extra thing if somebody wanted to have these at their event. It's not required, but something that we offer.
Understand.
Okay. All right. Who's up?
Thank you.
Robin.
Will it be
Robin.
all right with you guys if I stay here?
It's all right by me. Anybody have a problem with that?
Oh, well, sorry.
Nope.
You're fine, you're fine.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Yes, yes. I won't go through each one. What you will see is that a lot of these fees are just us trying to catch up with what we have been actually paying to our consultants and contractors, those third-party folks. And so in this table, you'll see the type, the current fee, the recommended fee, and then I've added an extra column there that sort of says why, how much and why. So when you go through the subdivision process, creating a new neighborhood, the conceptual preliminary plats, construction plats, and final plats, all of those right now are $300 flat fee plus $5 a lot. And we're asking to increase that 11% to $330 plus $15 a lot. And we also wanted to add in the word unit there, so that if you are doing a condominium, like or townhomes, but really condominiums, because townhomes even have lot, but condominiums are units. And so if we were only charging, the ones in Laurel Brook, there's 2 buildings there. If we were only charging per lot, well, that's actually only 1 lot. So we wanted to add that language there to capture the actual work that's being done. And that 11% is somewhat reflective of the cost that we're being charged and just inflation in general. And then there are several, and you'll see this repeated, all of our plan reviews, for whatever reason, over the past decades, we've charged a different fee for the first resubmittal, the second resubmittal, and onwards. However, we're getting charged the same amount from our consultants or contractors. And so I am proposing to eliminate all these different first, second, and just make it all into one. If you have to resubmit a plan because it wasn't right the first time, it's the same amount of fee every time you resubmit. And so right now, and I guess I missed that, it's the same amount. It was $300, and now we'd like to, I'm sorry, it was this amount right here. So you see we've got plan resubmittals. Now this line up here, and I will fix that for when you get your final document, has this language in it. And right now it's $400 minimum, or the amount charged by a consultant. And if it's more than $400, we add another $75 for, there's a lot of language in there that I sort of included in here, but when you get the final document, it will be, all the language to be included. So we were charging $400, and now we're asking to go up to a $500 minimum fee.
Robin, when you talk about the consultant, are you talking about Safeway?
No, so we actually have a engineer consulting firm. We have used multiple over the years. Right now, we are only using Abbott. A lot of the local engineering firms they don't have the bandwidth to help us. And so Abbott's the only remaining one at the time. And they charge us a flat hourly rate. And then what we typically do is we charge them the minimum. So we charge the developer a minimum, or the property owner, a minimum. And then we get this invoice from Abbott, and we compare it, and we say, okay, did they actually spend more time? Oh, it was $800. Then we go back and we add that amount onto the developer to cover.
And how did we get Abbott? Abbott.
Abbott, sorry?
How did we get them?
So they are professional services through our engineering department.
We've had some problems here recently.
Well, I do think that, as staff requests have coming through and are being reviewed right now, I think both of us have proposed maybe bringing some of this in-house so that we don't have somebody in California and then different opinions here. And we're advocating for that. We're not quite through that process yet, but we also we're planners at heart, so should that not get approved, we also have decided that we are going to issue an RFP. If we don't get in-house help through new staff headcount, then we will issue an actual RFP for these services. As before, we were just sort of kind of, hey, can you help us? And it's been right at the amount, that $40,000 cap, which is the city manager's
I
amount.
understand that, but I'm talking about when they do a survey and the survey's wrong.
Well, so that's regulated by the licensing department in the state. And so if a survey is wrong, if a surveyor is wrong, then the only recourse is for the property owner who bought that service to complain to the Secretary of State of Georgia and then follow through the Secretary of State's process review of that complaint and determine if that license should be revoked.
I think if we go out with an RFP, Justin, we need to make sure that we've got qualified people evaluating the RFP. Our people, look.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Um,
Sure.
okay.
The fees that you have up here, and I notice you put them up 11% or 25%. My first thing that jumps out at me is that the right amount to cover the costs that you're incurring for doing all of these tests? So we're not losing money, but, you know, I'm not looking to make money, as we've been talking about.
Right.
They need to be fair.
Yes, so the state law is very specific, we can't make money.
Okay, that's fine.
And so, the conceptual, like some of the processes are all in-house currently. And so that 11% is really the staff time. And we do, that's, you know, we are keeping up with our budgets and making sure we're staying, the amount of time we're spending on these is, we are getting that amount. And that's why I think this annual process is very helpful for this. And then the consulting fees, the way it's written, is very helpful because basically we charge them a minimum, and then if we get charged more than that, we pass that right on to the person who's actually using that fee, which is the developer or the property owner.
Good. So we're not out of pocket for
Anything else?
almost anything.
Right,
Suzanne?
right.
Good.
Councilman,
Based on what you just said,
Mm-hmm.
if you're charging a basic fee, and then we're having an outside inspector or whatever go and do that, and then they send us an invoice, that's a definitive, solid dollar amount that you can then go back and say, here's how much. How does that translate to, if we're doing it in-house, to know exactly what that fee would be? Is that, in other words, I know it sounds like a stupid question, but if it's easier, and I don't necessarily want it to continue that way, but if it's easier to have a solid amount that can be passed on to the developer.
So, what I would say to that is that if the situation changes and it is in-house,
Right.
then we would need time for us to continue with this and then compare it to our actual salary costs and what we're recouping through revenues. So that next year, when we came to you, we would say,
Right.
okay, this needs to change and here's why.
without
So
making,
that's gonna change, sorry, Frank. So that's gonna actually build a required component for you to do a self-analysis of the cost
Oh,
for
yeah,
every
right,
job as
yeah.
you're going through. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is the job and has been, so I run these numbers every month actually to make sure
Okay.
we're staying on target.
Okay.
So those first two columns are for subdivisions. The final rows, the last three rows are for non-residential development. That's your commercial industrial. And so again, you'll see those fees are, even though it's a plan instead of a plat, it's still the same amount. And again, the final site plan is, we're asking to increase from 500 to 625%. I'm sorry, 625 plus 15 an acre. And then this is covering some of those initial reviews, like erosion soil control plan reviews and whatnot. And then this is where it depends on how bad the plan, or I'm sorry, it depends on how good, let's think positive. Depends on how good the plan was coming in, that they're paying for the quality of their plan at that rate. So the land disturbance permit, this is a sort of all-encompassing one-time fee that covers the initial inspection And because we have outsourced inspections to a third-party engineering firm, the fees that we were charging are just not even close to what we are getting charged. And so it may seem like an extreme, but I can promise you that even that 400, that's probably lower than what we are actually getting charged for these initial inspections. And then again, for the resubmittals, we had multiple fees based on what resubmittal it was, and I'd like to just combine that into one and use the current fee that we charge for the second submittal for all of them. And then here we have the initial inspection. So this is before the LDP can be issued, they have to call for an initial inspection. And so we are getting charged $100 an hour by our consultants. And so we would like to increase that from 60 to 100. And then again, just to maybe add a little pressure for them to get it right the first time, but also just to really account for the cost of having the vehicles and whatnot we need, the time out there. We're asking to increase that re-inspection fee from 100 to 165. So I want to switch from development fees to a lot of the other work that we are doing downstairs. This is obviously not all of our fees. These are only the ones that we are asking to change. The first one is that Step 2 annexation application. Originally, they were the $750 plus the rezoning fee for both the Step 1 and the Step 2. But as you all are probably aware, the Step 1 is a general evaluation of the project and its comprehensive plan impacts. The Step 2 is a lot more. It's how is the school going to be involved? How is the fire impacted? How is the police impacted? How are our stormwater? It's so much more. And so we are asking and to increase to $840 plus the rezoning fee to account for the increase in cost of living and salary. The next row is a new fee that I have been trying to get passed for a while, and this I can say that previous city councils have denied and said, no, we're not going to do that for various reasons. But I have looked at what other jurisdictions around us are doing, and we are currently paying a consulting firm for our downstairs person when you first walk in. Beverly, who's our wonderful permit, she's not the building department, she's the zoning. We're paying Safe Build on about $90,000 a year. She's not making that, but that's what we're paying Safe Build. And I would say 40 to 50% of her time is spent dealing with tree removal permits. It is, for various reasons, it is just the amount of time that she has to explain to folks and do the reviews. It is extensive. And so we would like to start beginning to recoup that cost. This $15 a tree is sort of the average. There isn't a very neat number that all the surrounding jurisdictions, we've got jurisdictions who only charge for commercial. We've got jurisdictions who charge nothing. We've got some that charge $140. So the $15 is comparable to Noonan. And this year, we have not been tracking the number of trees per permit. We issued 240 permits, tree removal permits last year. But in our system, we're not tracking the number of trees. And so what I'd like to do is take this $15 a tree amount and change how we're tracking things in our system so that we can actually start tracking per trees, so that come next year I can say this is not even close, or we need to change this fee. And so that is, yes, sir.
Clint?
I just have a couple of comments to make. I've done some tree removal on my own personal property 4 years ago, and I see that $15 a tree, and we had maybe, I don't know, 75 or so pine trees removed, most of them dead, but we had to have them removed. And I'm looking at $15 a tree. Now, that would come back, I'm sure, from the tree removal service would then charge the homeowner that $15
They
a
have
tree,
gotten-
plus their normal tree
They
removal
have
cost.
gotten out of, these tree removal companies aren't doing the permits. They're making the homeowners submit the permits. But I will say about that fee, that's only for a tree that requires a permit. So we don't require a permit if the tree is 15 inches or smaller.
Yeah.
Except for the cherry trees and whatnot, the special type of, those 8 inches or larger, they do. But generally, those pine trees, if they are under 16 inches, they don't require a permit, and therefore you wouldn't be charged that $15 per fee. And then one of the things that we could do is, we have a timbering permit. There in the state of Georgia, you're required, you can't prohibit timbering. And so what other jurisdictions are doing for that is, if it's over an acre, they're doing a per acre fee instead of a per tree. We are maybe blessed in that we don't have a lot of residential folks with large lots that are trying to remove all the trees from their property.
Do we do anything with the condition of the tree?
Yes, so the ordinance says that if it is dead or dying, and that is determined, either it's very obvious to you and I that it's dead or dying, or if it's not obvious, they have a letter from an arborist. If it is dead or dying, they don't actually need a permit. What we do is we ask them to notify us so that we know when people start calling that this is what's happening, but they don't actually need a permit, and therefore they wouldn't be charged this fee.
I've had people taking out big oak trees that are absolutely healthy,
Mhm.
but they took them out. Individuals that I know personally decided to take these 2 oak trees down because the leaves were falling in the yard.
Yeah, or following the, and I will say that for as passionate as I am, and I totally agree with you, there are other folks on the other side who don't want, who are very passionate about not having trees because they don't feel safe, because they blow in the wind. I'm not here to take
understand.
one side or the other. I'm just
But
trying
we
to.
do have an arborist that could do it if we wanted them to do
We do now actually have somebody who is a certified arborist.
Good.
They only do though trees on public property. They're not there to go and to somebody's private property and make any determination.
it. Stacy, she just looked at you.
Oh no, they're in the
Stacy's
public
the new
works.
arborist.
Is it Fred? Fred?
No, it's
Oh,
Bob.
it is Bob.
Bob Warner.
Okay.
Hey, that's great. We've got an arborist now.
I know,
That's
it's exciting.
fantastic.
We do.
Thank you.
That's very good.
Utility right-of-way, if there are no other questions about that, I'll
Questions with this?
scoot on here. Okay. Utility right-of-way permits. This is anytime work is being done on the right-of-way, we're asking to increase that from 200 to 300. It takes, when they don't do it well, when they don't do it right, we send them in, and then code enforcement spend a lot of time tracking these folks down to make them fix the condition of the right-of-way back to the way our ordinance says. So we'd like to start recouping that. Path encroachment permits. So if you are blessed to have a path nearby your property, and you would like to be able, let's say, to remove a tree and use it, and instead of having this big crane come in and cost you thousands of dollars, your contractor has said, if I can use this path back here, I can save you a big bunch of money. We issue these very regularly, not just for contractor use, but also, what would you say, is that the majority of why we issue them?
It's usually, yes, tree permits.
It really is.
To removal and to clean up backyards.
Okay. When that wear and tear on the path is starting to show, and we are having to absorb that cost, and so what we'd like to do is start charging a $50 fee to start to, in most ways, just to recoup the wear and tear that these big, heavy trucks are having on our path. Our paths were not designed. They're not roads. They're not designed for that. And so this is what we would like to do to start to address that issue.
Being that we're the only ones in the local area that probably charge this kind of a fee, is it the appropriate amount at $50, or should it be $250? Because those paths are, I'm not saying we should, I'm just throwing out the idea that, is that the right amount to put
There's
into
no
that?
real comparable.
Is there
Yeah,
no,
there really
we're
isn't.
probably
What we're
first
doing
ones.
is, there have been a couple of court cases where we've actually tracked up and issued citations that have been taken to court and then they have been charged for the actual cost of.
If they do actual damage.
Yes, and so, so we do have some of that as an example, and it's certainly much more than $50, but this is sort of aggregate over the number that we issue every year, which is about, well, it's more than 40, less than 100.
Okay.
Comments?
No, I was going to ask how many it is, but she just answered.
Yeah. And really Cinnamon is sort of managing this process for us. And then the last one is we're actually asking to remove. We currently don't have a special exception variance anymore, and so we'd like to remove that from the fees type. And then the final is, before I put you all to sleep, is building permits themselves. We'd like to increase the demolition reinspection. Again, you'll see this sort of base reinspection fee of $100, and that's reflected by what Safe Build is charging us to increase that. But the big news in my little neck of the woods is that the, the state legislature passed a law that up until now, there were 4 ways that we could figure out how much to charge for a building permit, or actually any permit. And one of those ways was based on the construction value. And they removed that from our ability. And this is, interestingly enough, I had tried to get a proposal for you by tonight, but there is nobody that I have been able to find in the state of Georgia who doesn't use the construction value. There are some places that do a square foot for small projects, but then anything over, 5,000 square feet or anything over, they revert to this construction value. In fact, ICC, the International Code Council, that is what they offer services for plan reviews for building permits, and that is what they use to decide how much to charge jurisdictions for their services, construction value. And so that is no longer an option for us. So we are working with GMA and hopefully for them to help us out. And we're working with Safe Built, who does do work in other states. I have found, I would say, a sprinkling of other jurisdictions that use a per square foot amount based on the type of occupancy, which can get very confusing. But we are starting to work on that, and we're ready for that, but we will be back because we have to change that in order to comply with the law. So that, stay tuned for that.
And that would be based on all permit fees?
Right, so anything that we have what's called a permit fee schedule, and it's $0 to $2,500 is 0.013 cents per construction value. And then the range actually decreases the more expensive the project gets. But it's all based on how much the value of the project is. And I don't disagree with them removing this. With the cost of construction going sky roof through the roof, for us to do a plan review, just as an example, on a single family home that's 2,000 square feet, and it is a, laminate countertops and whatnot, it is going to have a much lower construction value than, say, the $1 million 2,000 square foot homes over in Towson Village. But the amount of work that the plan reviewer is doing is the same. So why should the $1 million permit or $1 million house pay more for their permit than the starter home? So I understand the reasoning behind it. It's trying to address this whole housing crisis cost, and this is just one little way to nibble at it. But it is having a significant impact on our industry.
Right. Certainly with the rate of increase on the construction costs now.
Mm-hmm.
Robin, do you have any idea what the time frame would be for some type of new law or some new regulations coming about? And I know you got a crystal ball there, so go
No,
ahead and look in
actually,
your crystal
this
ball.
law does have a due date. It's supposed to start in July of 2024,
So,
and yet nobody
but it's been
has.
signed, or has it been signed by the governor?
Last week, I checked, and it had not been signed, so I
Well-
don't know, but I'm not hearing any rumblings that it won't get signed, because
I-
it's other things
I
too.
thought that if he didn't sign things and it goes beyond a certain number of days, then it automatically becomes law
That may
in
be
the
the case.
following, whatever it is, following period of time, as opposed to a flat-out veto, and then it's not a law, he sends that back. So we don't know where it is in status?
It is, as far as
Not
of
signed.
last week, it has not been signed.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else,
I think that's all you have.
Robin?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Stacy.
Stacy's turn.
Casey gets some fees.
All right, I've never used this. Okay, we'll make this short and sweet. So alcohol fees, in our ordinance, we have where it stipulates that after July 1, our fees for the alcohol licenses should be at half price, or at half, 50%. So, till the end of the year. So, but on our fee schedule, it does not say that. So we are asking that our fee schedule shows that after July 1 through December 31, that they are half price. So 50% of $775 would be $387.50 for, malt beverage. Wine would go down to $287.50, and for the alcohol package, which is malt beverage, wine, and distilled spirits, go down to $2,500. Sunday sales as well would go down to $250. That's only for any licenses received after after June 30, so starting July 1 through the end of the year. I think, okay.
Short and sweet.
Yep.
Short and sweet. The massage regulatory fee certificates, last year it was adopted by ordinance 1201. However, I'm sorry, should have been September 15th, 2023 that these were. No, I'm sorry,
It was
sorry, that was correct. It was 2022.
I didn't.
Correct. The fees were decided upon at the time of passage, but were never added to the fee schedule. So for initial certificate, it is $250, and for any renewal, it is $200. They just need to be added. They've never been put on the fee schedule. And last but not least, this was just discussed at our last council meeting. We are currently amending our alcohol ordinance for the broker license fees, or, to establish a alcohol broker license, and we will have to establish fees once that has been approved.
Any questions for Stacy? Yeah,
No.
straightforward.
Very straightforward.
All right, so I have a couple slides to end us out here. Couple things that we're gonna be working on that are kind of larger scale than just the fee schedule. First, did I go too far? Yeah, there we go. First one I have is the stormwater utility fund. The fees for stormwater, I know it's everybody's favorite topic, I think a lot of people call it the rain tax. Our fees have not been reviewed or revised since 2012 for stormwater. We are in the progress. It was budgeted this year to do a cost of service and utility rate study. So we have engaged a firm to do the study for us and come back and do recommendations based on the cost of service of the stormwater fund at this point, capital projects that need to be done that at this point with the status of the fund we cannot fund. And then also what rate changes should be to cover the solvency of the fund. So we're also looking at, in that, we're talking with the firm about potentially issuing a stormwater bond when we get to this process within the next year of making these changes. Part of the bond, I know, talking with some of you, is we got to dredge the lake at some point, and right now there's no funds identified to be able to do that. I know we have an agreement with the county to cover some of it, but Peachtree City will have to pay for some of it. And so it is to us, it's a stormwater project. I mean, that lake collects stormwater. That's how they are there. So we told the firm that we want them to consider the capital project of dredging Lake Peachtree into a possible stormwater bond issuance in the next few years, and also any stream bank restoration projects that we know we have. We've had some erosion issues with some of our creeks. We've had erosion issues at Luther Glass. And we really, at this point, with our R&E fund and stormwater, don't have the funds to be able to do all the projects that we know we have and that are coming. Part of that too is to continue our storm pipe replacement and rehabilitation program. This is, you guys award these bids sometimes where we come in and they do the concrete lining in the old pipes, or the ones that are past that where we have to dig them out and put a new pipe in. We also have staffing needs in our stormwater utility. I believe that they're being asked for this year. I don't know if we'll actually get any more staff in stormwater this year. But before COVID, the stormwater utility had 7 employees, 5 crew, and then the 2. We lost 2. I think there's 5 now. But before COVID, we had 7 employees. It went down to 5 during COVID. We've never got it back up to 7. And where the status of that fund is right now, I don't feel comfortable actually having 7 staff there. Because I have concerns on the solvency of the stormwater fund if we keep rates where they are. So that's why we're doing this study. That's why I'm telling you now, because this will be coming to review as far as our stormwater rates and things we have to do with that utility fund.
Now, doing that bond that you're going to do on that, this revenue bond, we're going to obviously have to get some type of idea what the cost of dredging the lake is going to be and what the cost of the stream bank restoration.
That's part of what we're
But that's
going
to be an ongoing kind of a thing. You can restore them in one area, and another area is going to be able to be restored too. So it's going to be hard to pin that down. It's going to be a moving target for you.
Well, and for a bond, you have to specifically identify the project. So we'll have to specifically identify the ones we actually want to do work on right now. But as you said, the solvency of the fund itself to be able to do these ongoing as they come up. And I would hope in the future we wouldn't wait as long to do a study. We would do one more, fewer. Instead of waiting 12 years, we would do it, 6, 7 years, 5 years.
Excuse me. At one point in time, when we were dredging, the company I was working for, dredging the lake, we were given a document that said that Peachtree City and the county agreed to dredging the lake every 5 years to the bottom of the lake, remove all the tree stumps and stuff that you could see. Does that go away? There's an agreement between us and the county?
I have not seen an agreement that says that personally. It might be out. We could search our records, but the one that we have seen, Jasmine and I just looked at this one recently. We looked 2017 agreement.
Yeah.
16.
Yeah, I think it's 16.
So there was a 2016 agreement between the county and city that defined you're going to know the term better than me off the top of your head, Frank. The
Topographic.
Of the lake, of the county paying for the first one, the city paying for the next one, and that agreement specifies the date of 2030.
You said that in one of those meetings, but
I did.
this was an agreement that I saw signed with Steve Rapson's signature. I don't remember anybody else. I didn't see, the mayor sign, but it was that the city was gonna dredge the lake every 5 years. Do you agree we just have to dig? We'd have to look through records some more.
Yeah, we'll
and
have
see
to
if we-
look. Correct. The one that you're mentioning in 2016 also says that there was an intent of a cycle to dredge every couple of years, but I don't remember it specifically saying every 5 years.
I
But then
don't remember 5.
it said it's being replaced with the next dredging in
The
2030.
only date that pops in my head from that agreement is 2030. That's
Yeah.
what keeps popping in my head from reading that.
All right.
Okay. Any more questions on the stormwater? All right, next one. Al Yogel's here. And he probably came to see this one. So right now, in our ordinance, section 4283, this is basically word for word what it states, but basically the gist of it is that we charge the waste haulers. We go into an agreement with them. We have 3 franchises in the city that do waste hauling. 4 times a year, every quarter, they have to charge their customers $1 and remit that $1 to us. Those dollars pay for Keep Peachtree City Beautiful. Like, that's where those dollars go. It was adopted in 2009, that ordinance was, and it's never been updated since. And so our recommendation is, as we go through this fee, this is separate from the fee schedule because it's in, I guess we could put it on the fee schedule. But this is specifically an ordinance that we would have to amend, and then we would have to go back and do new agreements with the waste haulers as well. But we're recommending upping it from $1 to $2. Number one, because a lot of time has passed, and like we said at the beginning, things cost more money the further you go along. And also, the past few years we have been subsidizing Keep Peachtree City Beautiful. Not a huge amount, but it's gotten to the point that the city does have to subsidize Keep Peachtree City Beautiful a little bit to make sure they're running their operations. So this $2 would get them above that. And I don't know, do you want to say anything, Al? Oh, he does.
First of all, I think another $1 increase per month is beautiful. Per quarter, it's not enough.
Per quarter.
No, it's not. It's, we got a world that we got to face as opposed to the world that we'd like to have. And we have been made the solver of the home shopping solution. Now we've got cardboard way and above what? And we're going to do a million pounds of cardboard this year because we take all comers. And I have other proposals about how we're going to do that by restricting what we do for the residents of Peachtree City only. Right now, we only do that at Rockaway with yard waste. You got your cardboard, you got your glass, you got your aluminum, you got your paper. Come on down to McIntosh Trail. We don't care where you're from. I want to change that. And to do that, we need money. And who are we benefiting? We're benefiting the residents of Peachtree City. And Justin's right. It's, right now it's $1. It's been $1 for a long time. It's easy to say 2. I say 4, or I say just 1 a month, 12 a year. Right now it's $4 a year. Some of the residents are paying, since not all residents have to have trash service, which is a whole nother issue. But they're the ones to benefit. They're the ones that go to Rockaway. They're the ones that come down to McIntosh Trail. So I'd like to build a fence. I'd like to do some things to limit it to Peachtree City residents. So they're the ones that should benefit. It's going to take more, in my mind. I appreciate very much $2, but I'd like to see more. Thank you.
Al, what were you recommending? $4 annually?
Well, if the amount of $1 makes you feel good, I say $1 a month.
All right,
$12 a year.
thank you.
Okay. Any questions on that one?
Well, I lived in Florida for 14 years before I moved here, and they had a recycling center, and they had a gate.
Yep.
And you went in, and you had to show your driver's license. And it was great. If you didn't live in the right place, you got charged for what you were dumping there.
Yep.
And if you lived within the city, there were now, we had curbside pickup for the recycling, just like we do here for a regular household, but, you know, there were certain things you can't put in that, just like we do with glass now in it. So if you take your stuff there, you are allowed, you know, a set number of times you could go there in a year, and if you went there too many times, then you would have to pay too. But if you didn't live in the right jurisdiction, you had to pay. I think that that's appropriate. I mean, if we've got people from Sharpsburg and just outside of Peachtree City who are coming in, and I'm sure it's happening all the time, Alan's right, it's happening all the time. He's dealing with, you know, 1 million pounds of cardboard, you know, yeah, you know. Somewhere along the trail, somebody's got to pay for it.
Well, and I think what he's proposing, though, is a little different, where we would restrict it like Rockaway to just Peachtree City residents. So if you don't, if your ID shows you do not live here,
Yeah.
you would be turned away. There wouldn't be a fee structure for,
Yeah, well,
is that what, am I encapsulating that correctly?
well, if you,
That's pretty much what
Well, no,
happens
that's
in
what they're,
Fayetteville.
that's what they do at Rockaway now, but what he's saying is do that at the McIntosh facility as well.
yeah,
That's pretty much what happens in Fayetteville. If you go to the solid waste trash
Depending-
place in Fayetteville,
yeah.
you better have an ID card that says you're from Fayette County, otherwise they don't let you go dump your trash there.
Well, not only that, they have a set schedule for what you pay for what you're, you know, what you're dumping.
They charge you.
Yeah,
Well, I think we would, and a little different than that, what we're saying is running it would be covered by this fee, where if you're a resident, you're not paying when you go.
Right.
You're paying these fees to your waste haulers, which end up with Keep Peachtree City Beautiful, but then if you're not a resident, you'd be turned away.
Laura?
Are there any other contracts like this in other cities? It seems like with some of these other fee increases, we were able to look at other jurisdictions to see what they charge. Is there anything like that that we can look at? Or is this special to
Because
Peachtree
you're
City?
well, you're also talking,
So the
we're
key.
very unique in that we have,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
the
I thought that
free,
might
the
be the
three,
case.
yeah.
Yeah.
Most places have single hauler,
Mhm.
you know.
Correct.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to do apples to apples. Also, the Keep America, Beautiful program is different in every city as well, or county.
part two.
Just had a thought. No, with regard to that, comparing us to other people, I don't think you want to do that because we're behind. A lot of other people will come to your front yard and take your recyclables, take your grass, take your leaves, and so forth and so on. We're not there. So I don't like that comparison. Yes, some other people, they have one waste hauler. We tried that years ago. My gosh, we tried that. And I'll just say something that came to my mind the other day, that with, you know, home shopping, all right, I mean, it's a great thing now you solve the problem, okay? And our problem is all this cardboard and so forth, and all those trucks coming down our streets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not going out and shopping, but you want, that's what I'm saying. This is the world that we're with, and we've got to limit it to the benefit of our residents. And I'm sad to say that it's only the residents that have curbside trash service. If you want to compare it somewhere else, all these other places say you've got to have it. You've got to have a mailbox. Here you've got to have stormwater. You have to have trash service? No. Doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But, and it certainly doesn't every time I go out on the cart pass system and empty those trash cans. That's where the household trash is. So I wouldn't make a lot of comparisons there for that. But we got our foot in, we're charging it $1. We've been doing it forever to the people that have trash service. And I'm just saying that if that's where we're going to burden it, then let's up that for the things we need to do. I've got to put in a gate. I've got to control it like we've seen other people do it. That's going to take money. There you go.
Thank you, Al.
So council, what we'll do, I can get with Al, but what I heard was $12 per year. So if I don't hear any objections to that, I'll work on what that would be for a quarter instead of 2.
Any objections to him working on that?
Definitely do an analysis, see if that's gonna be the appropriate amount.
Yeah.
I mean, if Al has a better idea of how much stuff he's dealing with and what the numbers are as far as
This
what
is
his
just
cost is to have stuff hauled away.
This is just for your analysis.
Yeah, so.
We're not agreeing to charge anybody anything.
Right, correct. That'll be when we actually do the fee schedule
Yeah.
during a regular meeting, but yeah, we'll get with Al and we'll look at things he's proposing. And then it's easy to analyze that because right now at $1, I can show how much he has, and if we up it to this, I'll just times it by 2, times it by 4.
Yeah, unfortunately, you'll see an increase in how many dumpsters, or not dumpsters, trash cans he
Trash
gets
cans.
along
Yeah.
the parkway, the trail, the path. Because I know when I went out with him, there were more household trash
Mm-hmm.
in the Peachtree City Beautiful blue bins than there were just normally.
Yeah.
I have a comment to make too, Justin. I noticed what Al said very clearly was that there are some that do not have trash service, so therefore they do not pay this fee. Is there any way to capture that? That people who are not paying it would be somehow liable for the, whatever it is, $4, $12, whatever fee it is, to pay that so that they can help keep Peachtree City beautiful. I don't know if there's a way to capture it, but that's why I look at you and something to think about.
So you would mean capturing, do we know what households don't have service?
Right, we must know that because I would think we know that.
We know the number of
Right.
customers that each.
So we don't know
We know the number of customers that each company has, but I don't think we have. That'd be a lot.
Okay.
That would be a lot.
Well, it's certainly
to track
something
down.
to sit out there just to take a look at that. The other side of this, before Al, you starts again, I've lived in 13 different places in the United States, and I can tell you, every place we went to, other than Peachtree City, was you were required to take trash services, period. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, and if you didn't, well, I think it came on, I'm not sure. Some places sent you the bill directly. Sometimes it went through the city. So I don't know which way we would go. But everybody was required to have trash services. So this is 1 out of 13 places I've lived in that doesn't do it.
Just for an example of the volume, just take stormwater. You have to pay stormwater. I have to pay it. Every house has to pay it. Look at how many people ended up paying the stormwater and how many people are paying this $1. And I think you're going to get 1,800 homes that don't have service. So multiply that times.
Yeah, that sounds close.
$1,600 a month.
When we've looked as staff, it's been a minute, but we've looked before it, because we do require the companies to give us reports on how many customers they have paying this every quarter. So based on what they're paying us every quarter, we can calculate how many customers they actually have, and then figure those 3 up together, and then look at how many households we have in the city, and we know that it's not, like, it doesn't add up to we know people don't have it.
There's a shortfall.
Yes, we know people don't have it.
So that's why it's maybe done through the taxing basis, because those people are going to be paying taxes. Now it goes on your tax bill. So but that would be something I'm sure you'll take care of that, bringing it to us at some point in the future.
As far as
Making sure that everybody pays for trash removal and has availability.
How's he
of trash.
gonna do
I know
that,
it's a
Clint?
whole
Well, we
that's a
really-
whole nother
That's a
topic
whole
off this topic.
a
I
whole
know.
other topic, and,
Yeah.
and it will be, this from a staff perspective, as Al said, it has, but before my time, like a little before my time, it was talked about before of doing a single hauler, you know, road maintenance, this and that,
Right.
requiring people to have trash service. And there was, you know, from what I've heard. So I don't think it's a venture that staff is necessarily going to bring to council, because it may be one of those things of spinning our wheels of, here's something we could do, but so for staff, it's more of, it's me kind of pushing it off on you guys of saying, I don't really want to spend a lot of staff time looking into that unless there is actual interest, which is not
Well,
the
you
point,
know-
which is not the point of this workshop.
I know.
Right, right.
I know, just as a caveat though, I mean, you know, I've worked out a whole plan as far as I'm concerned, where you stick with the 3 haulers, divide it into appropriate jurisdictions, or divide it up so that they actually provide trash service for about the same number of customers they're doing now. But you charge through the taxes, mandate that way. That's the only way that you're ever gonna get it, because there's no one hauler that can upscale their operation to do the entire city. If you've got one company that's doing 3,000, another 4,000, another 5,000, not one of them can buy all the trucks and get the manpower and everything else that they need to upscale to do the whole city. And then you're gonna put 2 of those companies that have been providing service kind of sort of out of business. The optimum way is to figure out some way of contracting it into different zones, pay them all the same rate, and see if we can't do it. Maybe I need to go talk to the trash haulers.
Yeah. Council staff topic.
Yeah, I'm like,
I'm just-
yeah, I'm like, I think that's a good topic to address, but right now I think we're talking about these
Yeah, I know.
franchise
Yeah.
fees.
Right,
I
they are
would say
two
the
separate.
only thing that kind of raises my eyebrows a little bit, and I appreciate Al and all of his work and his insights tonight. You said keep Peachtree Beautiful's functioning slightly in the red.
With the current way they operate slightly,
Yeah.
but it sounds like from Al tonight that he wants to do a little more.
Right.
So that's what I do. I want to go back. So what I'm saying is I want to go back and, you know, get with Al and talk about some things.
Yeah, I would just want to see the justification and the analysis for this. On your first slide, I wrote this down, it was to this night was, and these fee schedule was to maintain existing service levels.
Correct.
And so if that isn't the case, I just want to be able to see it, not to say that the justification for $4 a quarter wouldn't be, you know, justified, but I just want to make sure that we're able to show our citizens where those services are
Right.
being for them.
Well, I don't want to put, well, Al's right here, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but as a nonprofit, as with our, some of the other fees we do, or all the fees we do, he's not in this to make money.
Right, I know that.
So, but yeah, we'll evaluate that, and I'll get back to you on this one.
Thank you, Laura. That's a good comment.
All right, so,
Keep in mind what we're here for.
oh, go ahead, Stephen, my thing's, you're either off of it or. Okay. So last slide, this is just, since we're getting into budget season, and you will get this presentation, so you don't have to write all this down. But getting into budget season, we do plan for the next month's actual scheduled workshop. We're planning on diving into the budget, not necessarily the budget itself, because we will not have posted it at that point, but diving into, from the staff's perspective, what you're going to be seeing over the next month or so in June and July of what we're proposing and goals that we have. Then after that, about a week and a half from that, or I guess 2 weeks, we'll actually be looking at the budget itself. So we'll have 2 workshops in June, one to kind of go ahead and set the goals, set the stage for what we're looking at, and then deep diving more into the actual numbers on June 18th. Then when we get to July is when we're going to start holding the public hearings and adopting the budget and millage, and we'll get into all that stuff July and August. So this is just for you all to know what the calendar is at this point as far as the budget is concerned. My kind of motto I've been saying in my head since about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, and looking at stuff that we already have and talking with staff, is taking care of what we have. But that's gonna be my motto going into this budget, and you guys are probably gonna hear it a lot as we get into these presentations in June and July, is, and I know Bob last year was big on this, of maintenance and can we afford what we have. So that's my biggest thing moving into this too, is taking care of what we have. I know staff has a lot of requests for some new things, personnel, stuff like that. There are definitely gaps in things that we need to do better to keep services where they need to be on the staffing level, and other things. But my biggest thing is taking care of what we have, whether that be buildings that already exist, personnel that are already here, and programs we have to keep the staff that we have and not see greener pastures anywhere. So there's things I want to put in place to take care of what's already here, and then think about the new stuff. So that's kind of been my mantra going into this, because there's going to be a dividing line for me with stuff that's being requested of me from staff and what we actually can do to take care of our stuff. So, yeah. Unless you all have any more questions, that's our workshop for tonight from staff.
Turn it over. Or what would you like to say?
I didn't have any more questions, but thank you all for all of your insights and the research that you've done. A big thank you from me to our staff and everything that you do, and for explaining this and answering all of our questions tonight.
Suzanne?
I'm good, thank you.
Clint?
First of all, I'd say the same thing that Laura said. I'm not going to repeat it. Thank you for all the hard work. What I wanted to add as one comment is, I think what this looking at fee schedules has told me is that we need to think about doing this on an annual basis, particularly with what's going on in inflation and the like. Take a look at it once a year instead of 2019 to now is 5 years ago. We can't wait that long.
Mhm.
That'd be the only comment I would make.
Yeah, that's what he had said. We're gonna do it every year. Again, thank you.
Yep.
Justin.
Yeah.
I think it was done well. I think the staff's kept it down to the reasonable level for us. And I think Mayor Kim would be very happy. So thank you again for coming. The 3 people that made it, thank you.
And we do not, since this is not a regular meeting, you don't have to vote. You could just adjourn it.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.